getting the space shuttle ready to take off.
Does that make you Major Tom?
Go ahead. Ready? All right, at this time, we'll call to order the City of Kenai Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for August 12th, 2020. Will you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item A2, roll call, please.
Chairman Twait,
Here.
Vice Chairman Fikes,
Here.
Commissioner Springer,
Here.
Commissioner McIntyre is not here, Commissioner Greenberg,
Here.
Commissioner Halsted,
Here.
Commissioner Askin.
Here.
Chairman, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Item A3, agenda approval. Wishes of the commission.
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
All right, any objection? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. Item A4, consent agenda. Commissioner Askin,
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Halsted. Any objection? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved. That will move us down to item C, scheduled public comment. We have none. Item D, unscheduled public comment. Anyone wishing to speak to an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on now to item E, consideration of plats. Item E1 is Resolution PZ 2020-25, reapproving the preliminary subdivision plat of Beaver Loop Acres Edition Number 2 with additional changes submitted by Segesser Surveys. On behalf of Beaver Loop Sand and Gravel LLC and the estate of Patrick and Mary Doyle. Staff report.
Thank you, Chair Twait. So the commission has seen this plat previously. When the commission reviewed it, they recommended approval to the borough, but there were 8 conditions of approval. So those have now been incorporated into this draft. When it was at the borough, the city administration, we requested it be sent back because we were concerned about the number of driveways it could make off of Beaver Loop Road. And the borough concurred with that and sent it back to the city again for review. So the main changes that have been made to the plat since the commission saw it, there's at the western edge of the plat, there's now a right-of-way dedication that covers the road that leads into the gravel pit. Then there's also a right-of-way dedication between lots 5 and 6. The idea there is that driveways could be built in this right-of-way or off of this right-of-way. So lots 5 and 6 wouldn't have to add a driveway directly to Beaver Loop Road. And then there's a new plat note that states lots 7 and 8 have to share a driveway just to limit the number of driveways that would be created off of Beaver Loop Road. The changes the commission recommended have also been incorporated. So this plat originally referenced state-maintained right-of-ways. The city is now taking over maintenance of Beaver Loop Road. And then the shading or the topography layer that's now shown on the plat, that was also added at the request of the city the first time around. So I feel now all of the changes the city wanted to see initially, in addition with these changes, that would limit the driveways off of Beaver Loop Road and the dedication of the existing travel way into the gravel pit as a right-of-way. I feel that this now is sufficient for recommendation again to the borough. And that is the end of my staff report.
All right, thank you. Can we get a motion, please?
like to make a motion, we approve resolution PZ 2020-25, reapproving the preliminary subdivision plat of Beaver Loop Acres addition number 2 with additional changes.
Second.
Got a second? All right. Um, we open this up for public testimony? Not really, huh? Public hearing? We don't need to open this up to the public, do we? Do? Oh, well, then I guess we better, huh? All right, at this time, we will open it up to the public for public testimony when wishing to speak to Resolution PZ 2020-25. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission. Any discussion? Anyone online? Anyone have any
No, I
discussion or
think that's
comments?
great. I'm glad that the city gave consideration to our requests, and it's nice to see this getting modified to basically ease any of our concerns.
Very good. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Askin,
Yes.
Commissioner Springer,
Yes.
Commissioner Halsted,
Yes?
Commissioner McIntyre,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fikes,
Yes.
Chairman Tweet,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenberg,
Yes.
Chairman motion passes.
All right. That'll move us on to item F1, public hearings. We have Resolution PZ 2020-22. It's an application for a variance permit for a building in excess of 5,000 square feet per story to be located in the property known as 1,000 Mission Avenue and described as Lot 16B, town site of Kenai 2016 edition, submitted by the Kenaitze Indian Tribe. Staff report.
Thank you, Chair Twite. So the next 3 agenda items, so F1, H1, and H2 are related. So they're all related to building additions that the Kenaitze Tribe would like to add to the Teokas Elder Center. So the Elder Center is located at 1,000 Mission Avenue, and it is within the Townsite Historic District. So the commission had passed a resolution in 2015.
I'm having a real hard time hearing you.
Oh, okay, I'll try to, oh, it went dead, that's why.
Just one moment.
Any one of the 3 was gonna die. Yeah, I was like looking at the code by it too. Okay. Okay, how about now? Okay.
Much better.
Okay, we had a battery change on the mic. Okay, so the Planning and Zoning Commission passed a resolution that allowed for the initial construction of this building. So the initial resolution placed the Townsite Historic Review and the variance permit on the square footage and the conditional use permit for the use all on one resolution. I've separated them here into 3 different agenda items for the commission to consider. So first is the square footage. Since the Elder Center building is within the Townsite Historic District, within that zone, code states that you cannot have a building over 5,000 square feet per story. So this would update the existing variance that allowed for the 6,500 square foot building that is there now. It would allow them to expand it approximately 1,619 square feet. The need for this variance, it's a result of the code within the Townsite Historic District. I just wanted to mention that the building would still have to meet all city setbacks, and it would also have to meet the lot coverage. So it would still be below the 30% required lot coverage. It would bump it up to about 25% of the lot. And the building would still have to meet city setbacks. So this variance would only address the square footage that is limited to 5,000 square feet per story within the Town Site Historic District. So in the staff report, looking on page 23 of the packet, I went over the conditions and code that allow for a variance permit. So one is that special conditions or circumstances are present which are peculiar to the land or structures, which are not applicable to other lands or structures in the same zoning district. So I noted that this property has been used as an elder center for many years by the Kenaitze Indian tribe. So that for that population, it is better to have a one-story building so that there wouldn't be stairs. And then also this addition is to expand the dining hall, and it would allow for additional spacing that at this point is looking like will be desired into the future with the COVID-19 public health emergency. So I did note that point under number 2, which is that the conditions or circumstances have not been caused by actions of the applicant, and that such conditions and circumstances do not merely constitute a pecuniary hardship or inconvenience. So again, I noted that it's largely senior population, and that this expansion will help the tribe respond to the COVID-19 public health emergency. The third condition is that the granting of the variance doesn't authorize the use that's not permitted. So I noted that the original permit that was passed by PZ 15-04, the conditional use permit would need to be modified to take away the reference to the exact square footage, and then a new Town Site Historic District review is also needed. 4 is that the granting is the minimum that will provide for the reasonable use of land or structure. And I noted that the Kenaitze Indian tribe has worked with a team of architects to determine the minimum size that they need. They are planning to still meet the setbacks and again be below the maximum lot coverage that is required. 5 is that the granting is not based on other non-conforming land uses or structures. I did not think it was. This is the Elder Center is a unique use within this district. So I recommend that the commission grant approval of this variance subject to the following conditions, and that's additional development conforms to federal, state, and local regulations. 2, that before the structure is built, the owner would require a building permit. That is also when planning and zoning would formally sign off on their setback and lot coverage. And then 3, that landscape site plan is also approved. And then finally, I'll just call attention to a few of the packet materials. So they do repeat a little for what is in the packet for the 3 agenda items related to this project, but on page 31, there's a preliminary site plan that shows that the dining addition and kitchen addition that would add this square footage, it'll bump it out to the east and south side of the building. And then there's some preliminary renderings, so the plan is that this addition would match the existing materials and blend in with the building. So I'm looking at those. There's some on 34 to 35. 34 and 35 of the packet. Page 36 is what it looks like currently. And then 37 is just some preliminary sketches for the landscaping that would be there. And that is the end of my staff report.
All right, thank you. Can we get a motion on the floor? Commissioner Askin.
I move that we approve the variance permit PZ 2020-22 as presented with staff recommendation.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, This time we'll open it up for public testimony. Anyone wishing to come forward and speak to PZ 2020-22? And if you do, we want to come up and get your name and address for the record.
Oh,
Oh.
when, if I could add,
Absolutely.
the applicant is also in the audience.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
So we'll let them have the first shot at it. If you need to come up and add anything, if you can state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Don Oler, construction director for Kenaitze Indian Tribe. I live at 239 Sunrise Court here in Kenai, and appreciate the motion to approve. This will serve many elders here. I think there's a total of 326 qualified elders. The nice thing about this is, up to date, we have served over 19,620 meals just this year alone. And because of COVID-19, we jumped from 60 to 269 meals a day. And that's including not just the elderlies, but their wives, and then the public who can come in and for $8 can get a really good meal. So they purchased 2 new trucks, big trucks, and they're serving hot and cold meals out of those trucks and deliveries. But the most important thing here is that the services that are provided. We have advocacy where we have people reaching out to the elders to make sure they need anything, that their health is in good condition, and just checking the living conditions that they're in. We have another outreach program for services to where anything that they need outside of the tribal council, as far as maybe dental or health or things like that, or any counseling or something like that. Meal deliveries, congregate meal program, which will be inside the facility with proper distancing, food box deliveries, transportation, as I mentioned, with hot and cold meal delivery, caregiver support, home visits, activities. It's a phenomenal program, and I'm new here to Kenai, even though I've been in Alaska 46 years. But this is a wonderful program, and it eases the mind of a lot of people. So I appreciate the approval, the variance, and I just want to contribute these statistics just to know by this approval what you're doing for not only just the tribal members, but for the community as a whole.
I'll have you stay up here in case anyone has any questions for you. Anyone have any questions?
I had a question as far as being able to respond on the COVID-19 side of it. How fast do you think you could get this addition in place and online?
I believe our December 30th, I believe this year. That's our deadline.
That would
Okay.
be the proposed completion date?
Say that again?
That's the proposed completion date is December?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Anyone else wishing to come forward and speak to PZ 2020-22?
I see there's been one addition online. So the person that just joined the meeting, if you are interested in speaking to this item, just press *9 on your phone, and we'll be able to see that here.
It appears we are okay. I guess I have a question, probably, if you maybe come back up, you might be the right guy for this. And I'll have to kind of apologize, I didn't dig through here and see it anywhere. And maybe it's a staff question, but maybe just in case. Did we need to increase the number of parking spaces because of the the size of the building, and has that been addressed? Are you dead again? Oh.
Okay. Chair Twite, yes, the addition would increase the number of parking spaces that are required. However, in looking back at the documentation of projects that the Kenaitze Tribe has constructed, there was an agreement with the city for an off-site parking lot to be used for several buildings. This building was one of them. The number of parking spaces that was required at the time was, it was less. So basically they would cover the additional parking spaces that are needed through that existing agreement. We think it would be, if I remember correctly, about 9 or 10 that would receive city approval with the landscaping site plan.
Okay, and I'm all for all the changes and stuff that are going on back there, but I just think it's one of those things with the smaller streets and the congestion that we somehow keep a running total on where we're at with those parking spaces down the line if there's in the future, so we could pull that number real quick and make sure we're in track. So, okay, I guess I didn't need you then. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I guess we'll close the public hearing then and bring it back to the commission for discussion. Anyone have any discussion, questions, or comments? Anyone online?
I have one.
Commissioner McIntyre.
Echo. I just want to echo what Chairman Twait said, which when I was looking at it and saw the building size increase, it looks to me like some parking spaces in the next lot over, maybe. I mean, they're hard to kind of look at the back and figure it out, but where the lot lines were, but there is a parking lot right next to where the building is. And if you're saying that there's an agreement for additional parking, I would just like to echo what Chairman Twait said, and that somehow we need to get a running total of how many buildings or how many spots are being allocated to different buildings, and how heavily they're being used. Because that area over there does get kind of congested, and I'd hate to see people trying to park the street around there because it's tight as it is. But anyway, that's my only comment.
All right, thank you. And I don't know if Ms. Appleby has anything to add. She'll have to do it via sign language probably. So.
Okay, I'm live again. I can just answer more fully because we had the city administration had spoken with the Kenites Tribe about that, and I didn't include it. I didn't speak to the parking directly in here because I knew it would be addressed with the landscaping site plan, but perhaps I should have, just so the commission had all the information. So according to the calculations and going through the different locations where the parking lot covered, we concluded that there were 10 spaces available. So that's where I got the 10 spaces when I was saying it might not be 10 more spaces they need. I think it was that I knew they had 10 spaces they could use for the addition to this building, which should cover them.
If I understand correctly.
Yeah, if I get you back up there, just,
I think the agreements come in for the overflow parking should it be needed. So that's why the agreements were made.
okay.
So to address the parking and make sure it adheres so that there's no congestion or anything like that. So I think that's why those agreements came out, was for overflow parking.
Gotcha. All right. All right, any other discussion?
I think I have more of a comment more than anything else, but the location that it is, I mean, we're not talking a small addition. That's almost, it's a 1,600 plus square foot addition. Would it be beneficial to, I mean, isn't there other locations in that same neighborhood that are available as far as larger spaces that would already be up? And I mean, it's nice to have it all in the same building and utilize the kitchen and all that, but for the sake of, kind of encroaching on that spot, was there thought into maybe using some of the vacant buildings that are close by? Instead of adding a variance?
Again, sir, this is Don Oler. again, that would kind of defeat the purpose if you're trying to, because you get into a major cost factor there of renovating a building to meet the needs of the tribe, and it would be a significant triple and sometimes quadruple in cost, trying to renovate the kitchens and meet all the requirements that go along with it. It's a major, major cost factor. And not only that, then we have a building. What do we do with a building once we turn around and change it? So you're taking one building and renovating another, and then you end up with another empty building. So it would be self-defeating, in my humble opinion.
Thank you. All right, any other comments or questions from the commission? All right, seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Greenberg,
Yes.
Commissioner McIntyre,
Yes.
Commissioner Halsted,
Yes.
Commissioner Springer,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fikes,
Yes.
Commissioner Askin,
Yes.
Chairman Twait,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, so there is a 15-day appeal period that an affected party could file with the city. After that, the variance will be granted, so that 15 days is on the clock. All right. Okay, we will move on. We have no items under G for unfinished business. Takes us to items H, new business. H1 is Resolution PZ 2020-23, an application for review of development in the Townsite Historical Zone for the property known as 1000 Mission Avenue and described as Lot 16B, Town Site of Kenai 2016 edition. Staff report.
Thank you, Chair Twait. So that one, the staff report is on page 41 is the start. So now this is the review of development in the Townsite Historic District. So the TSH zone has some requirements for development just to ensure that properties meet the intent of the zone. In the analysis on page 42, I went over a little bit of the history of the building or what research I could find of the building. So this building was included in the 1995 Kenai Townsite Historic Survey report. However, there was a note from the 2015 review that stated the building is no longer eligible for consideration on the Alaska Heritage Resources Inventory. So basically this building has been modified quite a bit over the years, where there isn't like a part of the building that is an original cultural resource. However, the future development still needs to fit in with the Townsite Historic District. So then I started to go over the development criteria in the staff report. So one of the development criteria is to, whenever possible and compatible with the historic character of the TSH zone, and then it names some things that contribute to the character. So there's foot traffic, restaurants, gift shops, parks, indigenous Kenai Peninsula flora, wooden structures including log style with soft-colored or natural sidings. So I felt that the application met that. There's some good photos as I'm just reading through these 5 conditions that really show what the building is probably going to look like. So again, there's renderings on starting on page 48, 48, 49, 50, 51 that show what the addition would look like. So the idea is to match the existing building, so it's not like it wouldn't stand out as an addition basically. And then there are also some photos of what the existing site looks like. And then this one I did include the parking as a reference. So that's where this email where it shows that there are 10 spaces available. I did include that because the Townsite Historic District encourages foot traffic, so I just was confirming that there was parking spaces for this. So anyway, the first one, encourage wherever possible those conditions. I felt that was met. Then 2 is discourage uses that would violate the historic and scenic quality of the TSH zone. So I referenced that the addition uses the same materials. This is also a use that has been in place for many years as the Elder Center at this point. 3 lists structures and activities that are not allowed in the TSH district. So it wouldn't create a use or structure that is not allowed. 4, that notes the square feet of the building, and the commission just approved of the variance permit to add the additional square feet. And then 5 states that metal buildings may be allowed if the commission determines they are compatible, but I did not think that it would apply in this case. So I recommend that the commission approve this application as meeting requirements of the Townsite Historic District Development Review, subject to the following conditions: that further review conforms to federal, state, and local regulations. Again, prior to construction, a building permit is obtained, and again, prior to construction, a landscape site plan is reviewed. That's the end of my staff report.
All right, thank you. Can I get a motion, please? Commissioner Askin.
I move that we approve Resolution 2020-23 with staff recommendations.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
I would second.
We got lots of seconds. All right. All right, we'll open it up again for public testimony when wishing to testify to PZ 2020-23. Again, I don't know that we have any. We may need you for some questions if somebody has some, but we'll just go ahead and leave it open for now. And we'll close the public hearing, then bring it back to the commission for discussion. Anyone have any comments or discussion? Seeing none easily, please call the roll.
Vice Chairman Fikes.
Yes.
Commissioner Springer.
Yes.
Commissioner McIntyre.
Yes.
Commissioner Askin.
Yes.
Commissioner Greenberg.
Yes.
Chairman Twait.
Yes.
Commissioner Halsted.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, takes us to item H2, Resolution PZ 2020-24. It's an application for an amendment to a conditional use permit PZ 15-04 to remove the reference to square footage of the existing building for the property known as 1000 Mission Avenue and described as Lot 16B, town site of Kenai 2016 edition. Staff report.
Thank you, Chair Twait. Oh, there we go. Thank you. So I'm going to call the commissioner's attention to page 67 of the packet. So that has the resolution PZ 15-04. So that approved the most recent construction that was done in this building. So that resolution, again, combined the conditional use permit variance and townsite historic district review. I separated those, so the amendment to this existing conditional use permit would take away the reference to the variance and townsite historic district review that are in the title, and it would also remove the reference to the 6,500 square foot facility, since it would be a different size. All of the uses would remain the same. So because of that, I still thought it was appropriate to have an amendment, since the building, the way it's used, is not really being changed. And I felt that as long as the variance and the townsite historic review were approved by the commission, then it was appropriate to basically amend the conditional use permit, so it's only speaking to the conditional use permit on the resolution and then does not reference the older square footage number. In the staff report, I went through the criteria that the commission uses for conditional use permits, and I thought that this one still met all of that criteria. So I thought it was consistent with the purposes and intent of the townsite historic district zone, I did not think the value of adjoining property or the neighborhood would be significantly impaired. I thought it was in harmony with the comprehensive plan, that there were adequate public services and facilities. The use would not be harmful to public safety, health, or welfare. And then I listed specific conditions. So in the conditions, I referenced that the applicant would still need to get a building permit, a landscape site plan, and that they still must meet all of the setback requirements, and get a new variance in town site historic district approval, which they did tonight. And that is the end of my staff report.
Thank you again. Can we get a motion, please? Commissioner Fikes.
I'd like to make a motion for resolution number PZ 215-04, conditional use.
Nope,
Nope.
2020-24.
2020-24, excuse me, for a conditional use permit variance town site historical district.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. We can again open this up for public testimony. Anyone wishing to testify to PZ 2020-24? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission. Any discussion? Commissioner Springer, you look like your hand was up for a second. Nope. I got a question for staff, just to clarify. Since this is just a modification to a conditional use, is there an appeal period for something like that, or is that just a simple modification? How does that work?
Without double checking code, I believe there is not an appeal. I'm gonna look towards the planning assistant to see if she can. I don't believe there's an appeal period. Yeah, I don't believe there is, because the reason or the rationale is because the use isn't changing. It's just a modification of what is already there.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, please call the roll.
Chairman Tweet,
Yes.
Commissioner Askin,
Yes.
Commissioner Halsted,
Yes.
Commissioner Greenberg,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fikes,
Yes.
Commissioner Springer,
Yes.
Commissioner McIntyre.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you very much. If you guys want to stick around, it's going to get real exciting, or you can, we'll let you leave. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item H3, recommendation to City Council for an application for a 45-year lease of city-owned land within the airport reserve described as Lot 5 FBO Subdivision Number 8, located at 525 North Willow Street, submitted by Alaska Air Fuel Incorporated. Staff report.
Thank you, Chair Twait. The staff report for this one starts on page 74. A useful depiction of what the applicant has submitted. There's this preliminary site plan on page 78, and then page 79 shows an aerial imagery of the lot that the applicant is interested in, and they're interested in a portion of it, so the northeast portion of this lot at the end of North Willow Street. So the back of the lot would provide access to the airport runway or taxiway, and then the front has frontage on North Willow Street. In the site plan, the applicant has drawn just some preliminary locations of where the gate would be and parking. So they would tie into the existing airport security fence. And then I just made a note that they would need one parking space per 1,000 feet of hangar that they build. So they may need to add some additional spaces once the landscaping site plan would be developed for this hangar. But I thought it still gave at least a good idea of what they were thinking and where in the lot they wanted to place the hangar, and that they've thought about having a fence there and a gate and paving the lot. So I'm flipping back just to review my staff report. So the applicant has stated the use of the premises would be a fixed base operator or FBO. So it'd have a hangar and an office. The initial application included a reference to crew quarters and a coffee shop. These uses were deleted from the application after discussion with the city. Alaska Air Fuel would have to complete a subdivision before they could sign a lease. So Alaska Air Fuel would pay for the cost of the subdivision. They would have to complete this within a year of their application, or else they could ask for a 6-month extension, but at most they would have a year and a half to get the subdivision done and their plans in order enough that a lease could be signed. So these uses that they're proposing are permitted and compatible with the Airport Light Industrial Zone. This would be consistent with the comprehensive plan, particularly Goal 5, which mentions Kenai Municipal Airport as a gateway to the Kenai Peninsula. So I'm looking for a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission tonight that I can take to City Council on if they should approve of this lease application. The compliance note, Alaska Air Fuel has an existing special use permit at Kenai Municipal Airport. At the time this packet was published, they had not yet signed it with a notarized signature. And so we said that we would, until they do that, basically we would not move their application to City Council. I said I could still take it to the commissions for their recommendation. I did just get an email just this morning that that they did sign it and that it's in the mail. So I had a digital image. So I can provide that additional information, but I'm not checking them off until we get the actual physical copy that the city can then finalize. So that's an update I can give for the compliance note. That's the end of my staff report.
All right. Can I get a motion, please? Okay, I'm not going to ask and say please anymore. Somebody give me a motion. Commissioner Askin.
I move that we recommend approval of the application from Alaska Air Fuel in compliance with staff's recommendations.
All right, we have a second.
Second.
Vice Chair Fikes seconds. Okay, discussion. Vice Chair Fikes.
I have a question for staff. Is the request for the housing or of the crew quarters, is that going to be okay in the industrial zone?
They went away, right?
Or
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Vice Chair Fikes, so the request on their initial application was for crew quarters, so it wouldn't be, they weren't initially requesting housing, but it would still be overnight crew quarters. And FAA regulations allow you to have crew quarters if it is deemed essential to your operation, and they could not provide us with information that showed that it was essential, so they decided just to remove that request. So they're only now asking for a hangar and office space. But you are correct, a residence cannot be within the Airport Light Industrial Zone.
So they are not going to house people there, is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, it will only be a hangar and an office. They initially had that crew quarters and the coffee shop, but
Yeah, they did a whole lot of moving and a whole lot of planning on being there, so I'm quite shocked that they changed their mind.
Yeah, they couldn't provide us proof to meet FAA regulations, so they thought it more prudent to remove that request to only ask for a hangar and office space.
Just out of curiosity, is that any concern for the airport operation? Does that impact them at all if there's housing, tenants on the property or airport area?
Vice Chair Fikes, it would not be allowed if the city discovered there was someone living like as their primary residence on the airport. I know of at least one other lessee where there was a request for crew quarters, but they were able to show that they met FAA requirements, that the crew quarters were essential to their operations. In this case, since they could not do that, they're not asking for that anymore. So your recommendation to council would just be for the hangar and office space.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Commissioner McIntyre.
Yeah, I was just following up on the note on the one page that said there would need to be one parking space for 30,000 square feet of hangar. It looks like from the dimensions on the hangar, it's going to be about 36,000 square feet if it's 180 by. So that means, if I'm doing the calculations right, about 36 parking spaces, and their diagram only shows 4. I was just wondering, where are they going to squeeze in? Well, what would that be? 22 spaces?
Ms. Appleby.
Chair Twait, I do not know exactly where they plan to put the additional spaces. I made them aware that they would have to have the additional spaces, so again, this is a preliminary sketch of their plan, so I think they would modify it in order to get an approval of their landscaping site plan. That is where the city formally approves the parking spaces, but anyway, the applicant was made aware that they would need additional spaces.
There's 14 for electric vehicles. They're smaller.
Any other questions or comments?
I had a question.
Yeah, Commissioner Greenberg.
Yeah, are they occupying the northernmost portion of that parcel or the southernmost?
Northern, I would say.
Looks like from their sketch, they're leaving like a small piece in the northern part. That's but still part of the parcel. They're just not fencing
Well,
it?
I think that's where is that where the subdivision between the two is going to be? Is that what I'm seeing? If I look at the sketch and I look at the aerial with the dotted line, it looks like that's,
Let me look.
well, that doesn't match. It would be opposite. That's why Gary's got a question.
Yeah, okay, I can answer now.
Ms. Appleby.
Yes, it does look that Commissioner Greenberg is correct, that I had an error in the map. So I had actually made this for them. Yeah, so I gave them a blank dimension of the parcel and requested that they draw where they want the hangar. So it is correct on page 78, because that's where they drew in where they wanted the hangar. And I made it incorrect on the aerial imagery, so that was my error.
79, then the
Yeah.
yellow dotted line would move to the other end of that
Yeah.
lot. Okay.
And I think I did that probably because I was thinking I wanted to make sure the city, if this subdivision goes through, that they're still left with parcel they could lease that's remaining. It did look like it matched the size of some of the parcels that are further to the south that are smaller sizes, so I thought it would still be a viable parcel, but that was my error. It should be it should be the southern part that they want to lease, and then the northern strip is what they want to leave to be owned by the city.
Good catch, Mr.
My
Greenberg.
my other question would be, is that, I think you just addressed it, but the remaining parcel would be viable?
I'm gonna guess it's roughly 100 feet, maybe.
Yeah, if I could,
Go ahead.
what I did is I took the dimensions of the lot and then I subtracted the area they wanted, and then I compared that to some of the other parcels, and I thought it was still doable. There is a large city-owned parcel that surrounds it. I could also, I'll just leave it open that the commission could ask for additional information too, because I did speak with the applicant several times to get the information I did so far.
I guess that is a topic for discussion then. Yeah, that would be my question is, and I would defer to maybe anybody that's on the airport that has something to do with the airport commission or has had, to see what their thoughts are on a parcel remaining. I mean, I guess if you look at the parcel to the south of what looks like it's another 100-foot piece, unless that overlaps onto the other side of that little road area, but Councilman Naxton, weigh in, please.
I think if you were to talk to folks at the Airport Commission, they would say that a 100-foot or so wide parcel that's that long is not quite worthless, but not very
Close.
worthful. It's just for aviation uses, because, I mean, a Cessna has a 36-foot wingspan, and you've got this long parcel, you know, it's just, for commercial lot, it's really hard to park aircraft, move airplanes, move them back and forth. And a lot of them were subdivided like this, and they're there, but they, you know, they're being combined and kind of shaped in different sizes, so they are usable. So it would be a very difficult lot to lease for a aviation business.
Good to know. Councilman Glendenning, have anything to add? Zero. All right. Any other discussion? And so it hasn't gone to the airport commission yet?
Chair Tweet, it will be before the airport commission tomorrow night. I will update the map for them as a laydown, but
Okay.
otherwise they will be receiving similar information.
And just to be clear, then, city council is just going to take recommendations and then they will have their own public hearing? Or at least a discussion regarding anything that we might comment on or bring up, correct? Okay.
Yeah, I can go over the process, so.
Yeah, if you could, why don't you?
Yeah, so this is a new lease application for a vacant parcel. So it goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Airport Commission for a recommendation. So that's where it's at now. Once I have those recommendations, then I would bring it to City Council and they would decide by resolution if they want to lease the lot. The note in the packet states that I don't have it on the council agenda for their next meeting. Normally I would, because I knew they did not sign their special use permit
Gotcha.
for 2019 or 2020. We were going to not move their lease application past this stage. And I had held back the lease application because I didn't feel they had provided sufficient information. So I finally felt I could bring it before the commission at least for a recommendation. So anyway, that's just a review of the process and what has been done with the application since I received it in April.
All right, thank you. All right, do we have any other discussion, or are we ready to vote? Looks,
Well, I
oh,
guess,
Commissioner McIntyre, go ahead.
yeah, I have a couple of questions. I guess one of them has to do with, why are they wanting to subdivide off again that small piece that sounds like it's gonna be sort of useless, or hard to lease, in the future? And I guess I also have concerns still about how are they gonna squeeze in off, more than double the parking spaces that they need? And then I guess if we're being asked to make a recommendation as to whether or not we think this is a good idea or not, should we maybe table this until we get more information about, why are they wanting to subdivide off that small piece, and how are they going to squeeze all of that in there in the remaining, area that they've got? Because right now I'd have a hard time voting in favor of something simply because, not because I don't think it's a good idea, but simply because I don't think I've got enough information to make a decision about whether it's a good idea.
Thank you for your comments. Councilman,
Might be a question for our planner, but there's in code, as far as the airport goes, when you lease a property, it needs to be for an aviation use. And I think that what you're looking at is a lease here. You're not looking at the development. I mean, you can see some ideas and all that, but you're looking at the lease. So if the lease meets the standards set forth by the airport, I think that's probably what the planner should be presenting, that you should be looking at, and not parking spaces and things like that. At this point, just my suggestion, but perhaps maybe Elizabeth might have, what are they reviewing tonight? Are they reviewing a lease for aviation use or something in addition? Any kind of a plan?
Council Liaison Next. The commission is providing a recommendation on the lease. The exact layout of the building would be determined when they apply for a building permit. So so that's why I still move the site plan forward, even if I know they would need to add in some additional parking, because I felt it gave enough idea of what they wanted to do, while still to allow the commission to make a recommendation on the lease application. The one other piece of information I could maybe offer to reply to Commissioner Nexted's question on the subdivision. The city charges based on square footage, so it creates a less expensive lot. So I feel that was the reason the applicant was looking for a smaller lot, basically, that would fit within their budget.
anyone else?
Yeah, if I might say, I'd be all for the lease, but I don't think the subdivision really makes too much sense. Maybe it's worth negotiating with them so we don't lose the lease, but to somehow avoid the subdivision.
Thank you for your comments. Commissioner Springer, Commissioner Halsted, anything?
Nothing here.
All right. And commissioners present, anything? Seeing none, please call the roll. Oh, let me ask you, before we do, so if we're in agreement that the lease application makes sense, but we're concerned about the remaining parcel after it's subdivided. Do we vote yes and have that concern be brought forward, or do we vote no? I mean, well, what would be, I guess probably the discussion itself has probably been enough to bring it back. It'll become a topic at council, but I'm just curious so that we make sure we know what we're voting. I'm not asking you to tell us how to vote, but I'm just saying, which would be the most appropriate if we have concerns about the subdivision itself.
I may ask if Deputy Clerk LaPlante could chime in. My understanding is that it's a recommendation, so I think you could incorporate that you recommend basically what you just said, that the lease use you agree with, but you recommend the council, that the applicant bring it forward without the subdivision, but I don't know if,
So it wouldn't be appropriate to make an amendment saying we recommend approval with the removal of I'm just curious if that's
yeah,
appropriate or not.
action approval.
Can I reword the motion? Can we reword the motion?
That's what I'm kind of wondering. If we have the latitude to do that, or if we're just up and down kind of a deal. I don't know how that works.
Because it's an action approval item, my understanding is that you could adjust your motion. And because this is just you're recommending to council approve and then including the conditions or, what your concerns are about. And then she would take that to them.
So that would be one way, or we could go on the record, just ask the commissioners how they want to vote, and if they said no because of, and that's their findings, then that would be okay, and that would get forwarded to council just the same, I would assume, correct? Okay. I think I would prefer that as opposed to changing the motion, if that's okay with everybody. So quickly, I would like to, I guess, if we could just run through each commissioner and just, if you could give me just a quick sentence or two on how you plan to vote and why you plan to vote that way. We'll start with Commissioner Springer.
I'm not sure. I would be in favor of it if they weren't going to subdivide it off, but wouldn't they have to come before us to get approval for subdivision?
Miss Appleby.
Commissioner Springer, the plat would come before the commission for a recommendation to the Kenai Peninsula Borough. So there was an instance where this was done recently, so that was a lot that SOAR International Ministries was interested in building a hangar on. And so that's been approved by council, and they hired a surveyor, and the plat came before the commission. In this case, it was subdividing the treed portion that they wanted to lease from a piece of the parcel that extended into the runway. So yes, the commission would provide a recommendation on the plat.
Are you sorry you asked?
I guess I would be in favor of it if it wasn't going to be the subdivided part. So another way to look at it is, no, I wouldn't be in favor of it if they're going to subdivide it. I guess that's where I'm at.
So before we go any further, then let me clarify, I guess, one more time. We are looking for a recommendation. Are we looking for a recommendation on the lease period or a lease with the proposed subdivision? I guess is maybe the $1 million question.
I was looking for a recommendation from the commission based upon the application materials I received from the applicant, which showed the subdivision. It can be reported to council, so
So I would say we're looking at it
Yeah.
as subdivided.
Yes,
Okay,
as subdivided.
okay.
Yeah.
I think,
Chairman Twait, I mean, one way to look at it, and I don't want to direct, but you could have reservations regarding it. The Airport Commission hasn't looked at this. There's other pieces of the pie. There's the subdivided parcel, but what's next to it? Could that be combined over there or some other thing? I mean, I don't know how they're going to look at it, and they're going to have some comments, and they may concur with you. And that'll all come back to council too, but I think bringing your concerns forward, number one would be very important. Number two, whether you vote against it because you've got concerns about the subdivision, I guess that's your decisions, but, a motion could be, that you have reservations regarding the remaining parcel and its use commercially, on the
Right.
airport, something like that. Just to complicate things a little bit for you.
appreciate that. Okay, so I guess, do we want to continue this exercise and just get everybody's record, or their opinions or findings on the record before we vote? If so, Commissioner
Can I
Greenberg.
revise what I was,
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner
can I
Springer.
revise what I was saying?
Certainly.
I would be in favor of it with reservations. I would be passing that along to the Airport Commission and the City Council to decide further on that.
Okay. Commissioner Greenberg.
I like that. I'm in favor of it with the condition that they review the subdivision and consider not doing it.
Commissioner McIntyre.
Well, I think I'll take the stronger stance and say I would not be in favor of it because of the proposed subdivision. But, should they decide not to subdivide, I'd be in favor.
Perfect. Commissioner Halsted.
I think I would say that I'd be in favor of it with reservations based off of, I think, most importantly, what the Airport Commission has, since it's the most affected party would be them.
All right, Commissioner Askin.
I am in favor of it with reservations regarding the subdivision.
All right, and Vice Chair Fikes.
I would not be in favor with it based on the information that's provided by the applicant and with concerns for the subdivided parcels' future development in an industrial zone.
All right. And I'll go on record to say that I think we're all going to get to the same place and the message will get equally passed on, but I will be voting no based on the subdivision aspect of it as well. So with that being said, we will call the roll, please.
Chairman Twait,
No.
Vice Chairman Fikes,
No.
Commissioner Springer,
Yes.
Commissioner McIntyre,
No?
Commissioner Greenberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Halsted,
Yes.
Commissioner Askin.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for the discussion. We will move along to nothing under pending items. Takes us to item J, reports. Councilman Nexted.
Thank you. On that last item you guys discussed, of course, that'll go to the airport. We've got two counselors here, and we're kind of tuned up on it either way. And hopefully, as we move forward, we'll, have more information on the remaining parcel or how that might combine to something else when it gets to council, because there's going to be some definite questions about that. And it'll be in my report next week, too. On this discussion. So I think it was a very good discussion, and we'll just kind of go from there. It's not going to it's too important. Anyway, council had its last meeting on August 5th. We spent the first hour under scheduled public comments. We had an individual, Bill Dunn, he's come to our council in the past regarding mitigation concerns along the bluff near Toyon Way. in Kenai. Toyon, there's a number of houses and some I think they're condos as well there, and eroding bluff and concerns with erosion naturally, and then from people repelling or doing things at the base, that sort of thing. And he came to council with basically a petition from a number of the neighbors and a design from a contractor essentially to install they're pipes really, but pilings I suppose at the base of the bluff with stacked pipes, and then that would hold back the bluff and stop some of the erosion and whatnot. But the cost per foot was estimated, I believe, somewhere in the $400 a foot range. And what they were looking for was an LID, basically, working with the city of Kenai to design, construct, and maintain that. So therefore, then the discussion continued. The LIDs we have are primarily for improving, government-owned, city-owned properties, which might include, drainage and water and sewer, paving, those sort of things. In this particular case, at the base of the bluff, the city has no property down there. And as a matter of fact, a separate property owner owns that property. It's like at the base of the bluff and out. It's eroded that long and whatnot. So it was kind of a difficult. There was several other concerns about creating one like that. Of course, if we did a LID, it would have to we'd have to maintain it or be part of the maintenance of it. And also, if you got government involved, we'd have to go through a whole lot more hoops to make sure that it's pretty much bulletproof, and we'd end up with probably a base like we're hoping to get here along the other part of the bluff that we're going through with the Corps of Engineers, and that $400 per foot will seem pretty cheap, So anyway, we talked about how we might be able to help them organize and set up their own organization or whatever, kind of an LID where the city doesn't have financial responsibility, and we really can't the way the code is. And they have some things they need to work out, help them with, stuff like that. But this has been a reoccurring issue, question, and we're going to hear about it some more, and you might also at some point. So I just wanted to bring it up. So that was it, to the best of my ability for an hour discussion. And so moving on, and I'll just go through a few of the items that we discussed and approved, and you're welcome to ask any other questions. We approved ordinance 3146-2020, increasing estimated revenues and appropriation in the general fund, basically for capital improvement projects. If I read it, it would get confusing what we were talking about. And what those projects were specifically, it's about $1.5 million worth of projects that we want to get to work on this year in design and construction. And I'll just kind of list them here. First Street repairs, the library HVAC control upgrade, the visitor center HVAC controls upgrade, Inlet Woods storm drain improvements, the Kenai Recreation Center heating replacement, completion of an IT master plan, City Hall air handler replacement, the visitor center roof repair, Bryson Street repairs, that's kind of an outfall line. And then Willow Street resurfacing. That would be from the Spur Highway just past the terminal building. So that would be it. And then one was added to that list, and that was granting some money, $120,000 for the Fine Arts Center that we have in the Old Town. It's a city-owned building. It used to be a fire station, used to be a library, it used to be all kinds of things, meeting area. And they're taking good care of it there and whatnot. And they've got plans they've prepared for a handicap bathroom and some repairs inside, and there is some asbestos. So as they work through that, so that was approved. That we certainly discussed it for quite a while with all the number of projects. We We approved ordinance 3149, 2020, accepting and appropriating grants from the FAA and authorizing a purchase of property described as Lot 5 Spruce Creek subdivision, which is in the airport's runway protection zone. And that parcel is kind of near the south end, southwest end of the airport toward the Spur Highway. And it's just one of those that the FAA is wanting us to get control of because of, you know, it's under the close approach there of the airport. So that's been negotiated and approved. We also approved Resolution 2020-63, declaring a portion of the cul-de-sac and Dominset Circle not necessary, and that was something that you folks had approved and recommended before. Moving on down, then we approved substitute ordinance 3133 under unfinished business, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations for the Airport Special Fund, authorizing a budget transfer in the Terminal Improvement Capital Project Fund and appropriating fiscal year 2020 budget funds in the Airport Master Capital Project for airport snow removal equipment and airport operations facility improvement capital projects, including heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. So we got some equipment, and then we're also, what that really is, it's changing out the boiler in the terminal building. There's two of them. There were two of them in there, old style. They're all on or all off. They were big and inefficient, and they've been having problems with them. Those are gone, and they've installed since really. It's a big panel-like closet, if you will, with boilers like I've never seen before. And I was telling Mr. Twait earlier about them, and that you open up the front of this panel that's it's about 5 feet wide, I suppose. And inside are 6 cylinders that are maybe 18-inch diameter, 2 on each level, and there's room for more. And each one of those cylinders has 6 settings. So essentially, as the building needs heat, one of them will activate, and then it has 6 different levels as it slowly ramps up. And then when it can't provide what it needs, the building needs, then the second one will, and then the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, so forth. So very efficient, because you know how your boiler at home probably is. It's just all on or all off, and that's how these big things were. And it takes up a lot less space, so it's a mechanical room now that you can actually walk around and do things in. So city's pretty happy about that. Plus, we're going to save a bunch of money. Moving on down the list here, city manager's report, a number of things. I'll just mention 3. The Old Town signage should be coming in pretty soon, something that we asked about getting late last fall into winter. Basically a sign at the highway, you know, directing folks into Old Town so you know where it is before you drive through. Once you get into Old Town, they're working on a series of signages that take people around, so you know where you're going and kind of loop around. And I think they'll have those fancy things where you can take your cell phone and it'll tell you what you're looking at and all of that, whatever that's called, to figure out how to do that too, but it's pretty cool. So anyway, that's all working into it. Right now it's just the signage, and then they'll come up with more of that. The city manager said that we should be able to sign the PED agreement by the 1st of September for the bluff erosion control. Matter of fact, it's on our agenda for next Wednesday to approve for the city manager to sign the PED agreement. And what that does is it allows the city to do the design on the bluff erosion project. We have funds still from the state, and we can utilize that for this design following whatever the Corps is requiring of that. We design it, they review it, and the intent is to, you know, for us really to get that money back, you know, essentially. But we have the money already to do that. And I don't know if it's still true with the Corps of Engineers, but they had no money for design a few years ago, but they had money for construction. So we were kind of stuck there, except we had money for design. So it took a whole lot of effort to get to this point where they approved to design it. So hopefully we'll get it designed, and they'll still have some money for construction. With things as they are, who knows? But we'll move forward, and it's a very positive thing for our city. The last thing is the bike path, and we've kind of all talked about that. The one that will come from Beaver Loop up to the Spur Highway, and the city got some money to do that, and we have a share, and the price for the state keeps escalating. It went, I forgot what it was before. Our share was gonna be like $75,000 or thereabouts, and excuse me while I look at my numbers here. So then it leaped up to the project price went up to $2.4 million for this 1 mile, just over a mile, I think, path. And our share went to 216. And if you're appalled by that, we just were notified that the price went from 2.4 million to 3.3 million. And our share would be 294,000, which is about $300,000. And a bike path it's an 8-foot wide paved path, and it's 1/3 of a road, whatever. So we don't know, they provided to the city manager their estimate and whatnot, and our direction was, the cost keeps escalating, and the state wants to design it and construct it, and I think they want to construct it themselves with their own people, because they have housing and all that in their estimate. That's kind of what I gathered from the city manager, but we had pushed at the previous meeting to design it, and he might not be the proper person, but the commissioner, let's say, whoever is in charge of that, he was concerned that we did not have the expertise to handle federal projects, because things are forgotten, like testing or something. That was one of them, but we do federal projects. If you look at our airport, the terminal's one project over $12 million and all that stuff. It's not that tough. I've done federal projects similar. And, but at any rate, they're just checklists you go through in the cities. But anyway, I'm making a long story longer, but the cost has been escalating, and we asked the city manager we're not going to appropriate more money, another, whatever it is, $80,000 on top. And at this point, and we wanted him to discuss this more thoroughly with DOT, the legislature if necessary, and federal highways if necessary, whatever it takes. Just, there's no reason why we can't design this. And we may not be able to construct it, but we can certainly design it and get that going. So at any rate, if there was hopes that path was gonna somehow materialize before the snow it probably wouldn't have anyway, but it's not gonna happen this year. That's going to be a winter project, just getting through that. So anyway, I'm kind of disappointed in that, but that's the long and the short of it. That's all I have. Wish I had a good note for the last thing to say, but that was it.
Well, it's a good time to mention that there are elections next week. Make sure you get out and vote.
I voted today.
Well, good for you. All right, thank you very much. Any questions for Councilman Nexted?
I had a question,
Commissioner Halstead?
and I apologize, my attention span, I don't know if I can make it all the way to your first topic, which was a bill done in the erosion mitigation for the
Oh,
Bluff
sure.
Pavilion Way. So I'm kind of thinking back, and again, this is my attention span's getting the best of me, but in the past we had, did we purchase out locations that were close to that bluff so that they were, I guess not, or anyone that would be affected by that bluff erosion project, and there were certain people that refused to sell, for lack of a better word. I believe that was one of them that didn't want to sell their house because they were concerned with us taking their house away from them, and now they want us to help save the bluff next to them.
Councilman Nexted?
I'm not sure I remember that conversation. You say there's somebody at Tyone Villa? Well, I don't know that they have 100%.
Well, Yeah,
I
I'm
said
trying to think if there
Toyonville,
was
I meant
houses
Toyon
that were
Way.
along that bluff that we had identified as were going to be affected, and the city bought those parcels, is that correct?
Oh, well, that's a different, different area. If the city has been purchasing property using grant money where we have our bluff erosion project, which starts, kind of near the canneries, goes past the senior center, and terminates, just into Old Town, you know, by, about where that beacon light is. And Toyon is,
Beyond that.
it's maybe
Awesome.
half a mile, 3/4 mile north of there. If
Okay.
you go down Forest Lane toward the bluff, the last street, you turn right, and I think that's Toyon Way,
Correct.
you know, past the armory and back
Okay.
in there. So that was the area that Mr. Dunn and others were concerned about. Did
Okay,
I
I was thinking-
misunderstand your question?
No, I think you got it. You were talking about two different areas, I believe.
Yeah, I'm definitely, we were talking about two different areas. I was thinking we were talking about that original area that went through Old Town.
Harbor Dinner Club area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
different area. I mean, if we could extend it, we really can't.
Any other questions for Councilman Naxted? All right, thank you. Move on to Borough Planning, Vice Chair Fikes.
Yes, let's see. We're gonna go from memory since I lost the battery on my iPad here, but we went, oh, thank you. We met on Monday and we opened it up for swearing in for a new commissioner for the Ridgeway area. Pamela Gillum joined us, and we said goodbye to Commissioner Foster in the Homer area. He was unable to retain his seat due to his relocation from the Homer area out to Little Tutka Bay area. And we lost Mr. Whitney from the Soldotna area due to the new ordinance that consolidated the commissioners from 13 representatives down to 11. And so the unincorporated cities will hold their seats, and those with city limits will rotate. So Soldotna sits out, and this time Ms. Eklund was reappointed from Seward, and so she'll carry the term for 2 years, and then that city will sit out and another one will step in. And on that same note, we've had a lot of turnover at the borough level with staff and whatnot, so on top of the COVID and everything, it's been quite challenging for staff and commissioners both with Zoom and just a lot of changes, yeah. So we've kind of had some rocky starts, but we had a plat meeting. We're scrambling for people. Now we went down from 13 to 11, so it's kind of a scramble to get a quorum together, but we were able to do it, and we had 15 plats that we reviewed and approved. And then we took a look at a material extraction out in the Nikiski area off of Halibutty for Mr. Rappy. And that was taking an already existing parcel that was already being used for extraction. And so it wasn't going to be commercial per se. It was already the shape of a bowl, if you will, and according to the applicant's testimony, he was just going to be moving the edges back. He wasn't going to be digging down. It wasn't going to impact any wells or anything of that nature. It wasn't going to be commercially sold. It was mostly for personal use. It was already in that, and it was just a review extension of the conditional use permit, and so that was approved. And then, let's see, what did we do? We had a conditional use, let's see, we did the plats. And then we had a conditional use permit for a boat launch in a 50-foot habitat district that was also approved. And then we had a conditional use permit installation of a well within a 50-foot habitat. Then that was also approved. And that was it. And then we wrapped it up. We are also going to be offering training for commissioners. Ms. Bent in the Anchor Point area. She was appointed our parliamentarian, which was recently held by Mr. Foster. So in doing so, she has brought a lot of skills and talents, and one of those is having a lot of access to some training materials and staff for Zoom. So we're all going to be logging on this coming Thursday to get some more up-to-date and procedures and technicalities and things that kind of come up when you're trying to hold a Zoom meeting and you're dealing with multiple people and audio and visual technicalities and, you know, what's right and what's not right and how best to address it and that kind of thing. So much appreciated for that opportunity, so I'll be happy to follow up with anybody on that. And that's all we have at this time.
All right, any questions for Vice Chair Fikes? Seeing none, we will move on to administration. Ms. Appleby.
Thank you, Chair Twait. Sorry, I had the wrong page there. Okay. So I was just going to note, I think I already said at the last meeting that DIPNet was over, but I know there will be the annual DIPNet report will be forthcoming. I've been doing work on the land management plan. I still have some edits to make, but trying to move it forward to get it into a final draft format. I wanted to just mention that several leases, many that the commission has seen, have been finalized. So the ones this commission would have seen were new leases. Some that just went straight to city council, or only went to airport commission and then council, were some assignments, and renewals, and we had 2 renewals. So we've had some lease record updating internally lately just to reflect the additional terms for the leases. And then I just was going to mention the agenda items at the airport commission tomorrow. So it's Alaska Air Fuel, and then there's 2 other ones that aren't coming to this commission, but I just wanted to note. So there's 2 extensions. The type of extension they're asking for are different, but 2 pending lessees requested an extension for their lease expiration and when they had to sign the lease, and they cited the COVID-19 public health emergency. So just that is occurring in case it affects anything extension-wise that would come before the Planning and Zoning Commission. I haven't yet seen anything, but just that's the first time I've encountered an extension for the COVID-19 public health emergency. And then I wrote authorization. And then I've been helping a little bit with the signs in Old Town, just trying to help map locations where we could legally put them where we own the land, or that we have right of way, where it's a city right of way, where we could potentially put a sign. And that is the end of my staff report.
All right, any questions? Doesn't appear to be, so we will move on. Any additional public comment? Come forward. Councilman Glendenning.
Thank you, Chairman Twite, members of the commission. Jim Glendenning, live in Woodland Subdivision. I'm concerned about the movement at the borough to preclude the representation for first-class home rule cities, especially Kenai, on the Peninsula Borough Planning Commission. And question, you don't have to answer it, but is it already a rule, or is it just something that's being worked on? Because I know when I was in your spot, a different arrangement was set.
Yeah, I echo your sentiment because I was under the impression that it was a discussion until I reviewed the packet that we just went through, and it was an actual ordinance that went before apparently the assembly. And Charlie Pierce and the others voted on it and approved it, and it went into effect August 1st.
Okay, because I'd asked for surveillance on it, and I guess I should have been watching it, so, this is something that we have to, be mindful of, because, we are first-class home rule city. We have as many as perhaps 8,000 people. We have quite a bit of, economic activity. And if you look at the assembly representation, we have 1 and a fraction representatives. Okay, there's an individual that represents California and our precinct number 3. And this is also the planning commission, as I understood it when I was there, is census-based. And so I think something got a little tweaked here, so we'll stay tuned. Thank you.
Get your pitchforks. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? Seeing none, we will move on to no informational items. Next meeting, August 26th, which will have a work session to follow. And with that, commissioners' comments and questions. Commissioner McIntyre, anything?
Nothing additional.
All right, Commissioner Halsted.
Nothing more on my end.
Commissioner Greenberg.
I don't have any, thank you.
Commissioner Springer.
No, I don't have anything.
Commissioner Askin.
I'm good.
Vice Chair Fikes.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment on, Councilman Glendenning's comment about the upcoming change in the ordinance. I was quite shocked too. I thought there would have been some input from administration, either at Soldotna level, Homer level, or others. I didn't recall reading it in the packet, so, yeah, it did have a fastball kind of feel to it, that, you know, all of a sudden everybody's getting the door shut on them and you gotta wait a 2-year term and now you gotta sit and wait another, so potentially any one of these cities could be losing a voice at the table for 4 years, it feels like. So, yeah, it is something very concerning. I'd strongly encourage everybody to keep an eye out on what's happening at the assembly level.
Thank you. I have nothing to add, so business being complete, the meeting is adjourned.